Our film opens on a PSA by the PETA Foundation. Bit of a mixed messaging by the lady of the house when you expect your family dog to play dead. Our film begins proper with our two sullen sibling leads. I love that not only do you have two angsty teenagers equally loathing life itself, but that they make death tableaus in their spare time. Gotta put all that time during the new normal to good use, right? They're like teenage Wednesday Addamses. The movie even introduces them, not only discussing their mutual suicides, but their deaths serving as a final insult to the world. United against life as they know it. They have a unique sense of people watching, inventing ways for fellow classmates to meet their untimely demise.
Oh, you are dark!
One trope you'll notice in this film is that dead dogs randomly show up when the plot feels it's dramatic. Really, no one spotted a crime scene of a mutilated canine in broad daylight. In an open soccer field, filled with students.
At this time of year, at this time of day, in this part of the country, yes.
When they're not deliberating on inventive methods of torture for their high school rivals, they're looking at their teenage peers as spare parts for their, extracurricular activities. Even the back pain Ginger is feeling turns to fascination over all the fatal ailments she could be suffering from. All the usual high school trappings are present and accounted for. Overly eager sperm donors, vapid bimbos, and those teachers' dirty looks. The douchey juvie on call for this film propositions Ginger in the most unimaginative ways. Ginger, left swooning over his lack of discretion, responds in kind with her own witty repartee.
Nah, son.
If the incarceration of these two Columbine twins serving life sentences in suburbia weren't bad enough, their mother, Susie Homemaker, is the acting warden, and there's no possibility of parole. She's like the obliviously chipper aunt from Sleepaway Camp.
Any chips?
Why, of course. I believe there's a whole bag.
Why, I'm almost sure of it. Angela.
Emo, Thelma, and Louise hatch a plan to steal the prom queen's dog and put their death fetish to use to stage it like Fido's been murdered. En route, they find a crime scene all their own. Considering the use of 4 separate sources of DNA in one single setting, from the props for their prank they've brought along, the dead dog they find, Ginger getting her period, and the following scene, I admire the use and hints of blood without divulging into gore. That use of subtlety and restraint makes for a creative sign of things to come. Also, there's something about playgrounds that's just creepy, especially at night. Almost as bad as werewolves. Even though the attack implores quick cuts, they're used effectively and show just enough of the beast. One cliche I've always noticed about this genre is the disposable carrier, where once the curse of the moon is transferred to the protagonist, patient zero is immediately removed from the equation. It was actually written in the script that a bear might come after a girl on the rag because of the smell. Well, far be it for me to skip out on a Ron Burgundy reference.
I read somewhere that their periods attract bears. The bears can smell the menstruation.
The actor playing the drug dealer really feels legit, which is something this film has going for it despite its limited budget. Everything down to the way the sisters curse feels authentic. As much as Ginger immediately regrets her sister walking in on her noticing hair in funny places, she's even more ashamed when Bridget convinces her to see the high-spirited school nurse explaining all the wonders of ladyhood she has to look forward to in the most cheerfully awkward manner possible.
I immediately regret this decision.
At dinner, Ginger articulates her feelings in the only way she can, entirely bereft of joy.
Wishes were baby's legs.
After the dealer and Bridget compare notes, she makes a discovery that's as freakishly horrific as it is adorable. Your choices in reaction over this development are recoil in abject terror or giggle like a schoolgirl. You guys already know what I went with. This is a horror review channel after all. From here, I'm afraid it's all bad news for Bridget. Her partner in crime won't mind his business. Ginger gives her the business. Her mother's all up in her business. Ginger, on the other hand, is blossoming into a social butterfly, a truly delicate lily. And for her first time, she elects the douchey juvie's shoddy Volvo. How romantic! And just take a listen to the sweet nothings she whispers in the ear of her betrothed.
Who's the guy?
Who's the guy here? Huh? What's my name, Bobby?
What?
Oh, what's my name, bitch?
Oh my god!
And just like the picture of class that any newly deflowered lady demonstrates, she stumbles in reeking of entrails and shame, having freshly eaten the neighbor's dog. Hey, we've all been there. Call me squeamish, but the most visceral reaction I had to this film was the navel piercing. When Bridget hopes to either cure or curb Ginger's infection with a silver ring to the belly. That's saying something considering this is a body horror film. The puberty metaphor goes a bit too far when douchey Juvie takes a piss test to assess if he's taken performance-enhancing drugs. I would guess performance-reducing drugs, considering his acting. The two take a trip to their local pharmacy and do a little window shopping.
Wicked.
It's interesting that this film goes into the science of something like wolfsbane, that most famous deterrent of lycanthropy, by explaining the chemistry of its medicinal purposes in fighting infection. It's a deliberate attempt to present the fantastical as more grounded and believable. The body horror in the bathroom comes into full effect. What started out as a cutesy, stubby little tale grows more dire as, while attempting to shave the coarse hairs on her legs, Ginger spots a claw protruding from her ankle. The school bully / prom queen pays the girls a house call, hoping they'll show some school spirit with a purchase of her Girl Scout cookies. She's even willing to hand out free samples. First, shortbreads. That's a favorite. Then, some Thin Mints. You'll want to fill up on those. Then, some Caramel Delights. Always a classic, always a classic. And then Ginger snaps! The bully sees the mess they're making and shows them how to make a proper apple turnover. If you want to make the perfect pastry, you can't be afraid to crack a few dough. Admittedly, that was a clever way to ditch the chick while covering up the crime scene to look like one of their tableaus. Later at school, the douchey juvie boy toy goes all Corey Feldman in Bordello of Blood with his overacting.
Come on, dude. Let's party.
As terrifying as Ginger's ordeal is, the sisters manage to bond while simultaneously drifting apart. I find it funny that it's Ginger that exposes her chest to boys at school, and yet Bridget is the one wearing a flasher's topcoat. Bridget and the dealer make a test batch of the monk's hood, while Ginger carves her rendition of every gas station bathroom ever. I'd like to take this moment to say I think the best part of these characters is that they think, speak, and act like adults. Everyone is so equally snarky and salty, I love it. Corey Feldman serves as the perfect plot device to test the antidote, and it proves a success. Sadly, there's no cure for bad acting. Ask Keanu Reeves. After Ginger's exposure to the student body, she decides it's teacher that needs a hard lesson. Boo me all you want! I'll just keep to the bad puns! When Bridget arrives, it's obvious it's up to her to clean up the mess. She steals the supplies from the janitor.
You call me? Huh? Not your friend.
But blows her cover playing fast and loose without a hall pass.
No running in the hallway.
See? I got them both. I'm willing to forgive this film's display of animal cruelty, it being a werewolf movie and all, what I cannot condone is the treatment of Mr. Miyagi.
No such thing, bad student, only bad teacher. Teacher say, student do.
Strobe lights always do the trick to creep you right the hell out. This right here is the highlight of the film because it shows how psychologically Ginger has fully turned. The emergence from the guidance counselor's office is followed up with another fear-inspiring scene as she goes on to describe the erotic thrill she gets from murder and doesn't skip on the gory details. Some of the best horror toes the line between sex and death, and this movie joins that exclusive club, a first for werewolf films. In a truly gruesome proposition, Ginger offers to turn her sister to become a pack all their own, like they were before. Even in proposing reconciliation, her methods are nothing short of ravenous. Susie Homemaker takes a break from her house life and decides to go to town like only a suburban soccer mom can, picking up some promiscuous streetwalkers. She's caught herself a looker Mama likes, and imagine her disappointment that it's just her frumpy daughter. But, ever maternal, she swaps out her heart-on for a heart-to-heart, revealing she knows all about the dead Girl Scout. Her selection of cookies was basic AF, but that was no reason to kill her. She offers to torch the house and run away with her girls, and I kid you not, the mom actually reasons that if her daughters got caught...
He'll just blame me. They all will.
Really? Because you didn't see all the signs of homicidal teenagers? The montage of murder wasn't enough of a dead giveaway? Shut up! Ginger shows up what I can only describe as Countess Dracula. In a true display of toxic masculinity, the dealer rejects Ginger's advances and shoves her off of him. No means no. A strong, eeny penny whammon who no need no mang expresses her sexuality and this is how she's treated? For shame. What would Cardi B say? Something ratchet, I imagine. Helping Ginger off the floor, he extends a courtesy like only a cisgendered white male primate would. So Ginger instead gives him a hand. In the spirit of Thanksgiving, the dealer shows his gratitude for Ginger's charity and gives her an inside scoop. Careful with your head out that window, you'll end up in an overrated movie. On the way home to get the cure, we're treated to cooking up some coke, sharing needles, and ODing on Applebee's. Ah, life in the burbs. Ginger has a conniption fit over hearing that her dealer is giving her kid's sister better rates and decides to pay him back for that bad batch of weed with interest. Beef vegetable. I still prefer Campbell's Chunky Soup myself. In a callback from the film's beginning, Bridget is forced to kill her sister with the same knife Ginger was contemplating suicide with. The pictures hung up of their death scenes is a harsh contrast to the reality of confronting death instead of simulating it for leisure. Bridget can only cling to her sister as Ginger's life slips from grasp. You would have heard me mention this film in my recommendations of Halloween 2020 watch list. What you didn't hear in that video there, that I am now positing here, is that Ginger Snaps is undeniably the second greatest werewolf film of all time. Like any great lycanthropy movie, this picture makes its own contribution to the lore. Any other flick to depict the Curse of the Moon would have portrayed its protagonist as a separate entity from its villain. This film uses its limited budget to its advantage by illustrating Ginger's behavioral changes to line up with the mark of the beast, so that the inhuman monster wears a very human face. Yes, Ginger is a tragic figure, but it's far too easy to distinguish man from monster when the two are completely separate entities. This movie sees victim and victimizer don the same skin, so that you see just how insidious the curse truly is as it festers and fosters just under the skin until it boils to the surface. Taking a quick peek at the Scream Factory special features, it was thought-provoking to hear that while the creative team wanted to go the more matter-of-fact approach as opposed to Hollywood fiction, they based the script off of the premise of the menstrual cycle tied to the lunar cycle. Despite plot progression and acceleration of the lichen symptoms, this is clearly more character-driven than story-based. That is another strength of this film. Any other flick would have ditched character growth and dynamic, but because of the chemistry between the sisters, the colorful characters, and the believable performances, you're not sitting in your seat just staring at your watch wondering when the fangs and the fur will sprout. You don't even see the beast until the last 9 minutes of the film. You're along for the ride because you're invested. I respect this movie too much to soil it with even referencing the multitude of other meandering teen horror dreck that came out in the 2000s, but to its credit, I will just say that this film takes the premise of Teen Wolf and does it right.
Warn your friends. Warn everyone.